Hello, welcome to Chapter 3. We're going to be talking about states of matter and changes in state. And in this section, we'll be formally introduced to a very important theory in chemistry, the kinetic theory, which states that all matter is made up of particles, and those particles are constantly in motion. Let's take a look at the consequences of this and how we explain solids, liquids, and gases. Solids, liquids, and gases are a great example of the kinetic theory of matter. First off, what are solids, liquids, and gases? Well, to describe the states of matter, you can classify materials based on their shape and volume. How can shape and volume be used to classify materials? Well, materials can be classified solid, liquid, or gas based on whether their shape and volumes are definite, that is to say, constant, or indefinite, changing. We are talking about looking at a material at a constant temperature. For example, solids. Think about these four objects and what they have in common: a pencil, a quarter, a book, a cafeteria tray. They're all solid. They're in a state of matter that has a definite shape and, under normal circumstances, a definite volume. We will have to discuss thermal expansion because when you heat a solid, it grows. And when you cool a solid off, it shrinks. This is the idea of thermal expansion. So we are smarter than the textbook. But if you have constant temperature, solids have a definite shape, definite volume. As an example of thermal expansion, we could talk about bridges. There are expansion joints in metal bridges, and that is so as the temperature changes, the bridge doesn't buckle and break. If we're looking at a sample of solid copper, it definitely has a definite volume at a normal temperature, at a constant temperature. Copper atoms are packed close together, and they are orderly arranged. All solids have some sort of arrangement. Now, we will learn in Chapter 6 about metallic bonding, and the solid in metals is not necessarily, it's not a crystal. There are crystalline solids. Those are ionically bonded substances. But still, there's a regular pattern at the atomic level. Now let's talk about liquids. How good are you at estimating whether the juice remaining in an almost empty bottle will fit in a glass? Liquid, of course, is a state of matter in which a material has a definite volume at a constant temperature, but it doesn't have a shape. And we will look at why this is the case, keeping in mind, as you heat liquids, they grow. This is thermal expansion. And as you cool liquids, they shrink. This leads to all sorts of important principles. But at constant temperatures, we know how much volume a liquid takes up. For example, at room temperature, mercury is a liquid, one of very few elements on our periodic table that exist as liquids, and the only metal. Drops of mercury on a flat, clean surface have a round shape. It has a tremendous amount of surface tension. There is cohesion between the atoms of mercury. Mercury is a liquid, so in a container, it has the shape the same as the container. Mercury atoms are close together in a liquid form, but their arrangement is more random than a solid form. So if we were to look closely at the atoms, they are packed closely together, but there is no orderly way that they are arranged. They're just swimming around. What about gases? If you were asked to name a gas, what would you say? Maybe you would say air. It's a very common gas, a mixture of gases, about 80% nitrogen, 20% oxygen, and the remaining little tiny bits of carbon dioxide, argon gas. Of course, there's water vapor in air too. Gas is a state of matter where there's neither a definite shape nor a definite volume. So a gas takes the shape and the volume of its container. It can spread out, and it also can be compressed. This will be very important when we get to the gas laws at the end of Chapter 3. For example, these balloons are filled with helium. It's a colorless gas, and it's less dense than air. That's why helium balloons float. Even though 2 of the balloons are teardrop-shaped and 2 are disc-shaped, the shape of the helium in the balloon is the same as the shape of the balloon itself. So the balloon gives the helium a container, and the helium fills that container. The volume of the helium in a balloon is equal in all of those balloons. How do we describe this with the kinetic theory? Well, the particles have a lot of motion. They are spread out, and they're free to move. The helium atoms in a balloon are not arranged in a regular pattern. They're in random locations, and they are moving fast. Because of the space among helium atoms, a large amount of helium can be compressed into a metal cylinder. There's a lot of empty space in gases. When helium flows from the cylinder into a balloon, then the helium atoms can spread out. Helium can fill balloons much, much bigger than a helium cylinder. Gases are the only state of matter that can change their volume quite easily just by applying pressure. Don't forget that 99% of all the matter that we observe in our universe is not a solid, liquid, or a gas. At high temperatures, such as in stars, the state of matter becomes a plasma. It is an ionized gas. So it behaves like a gas under pressure, but because it is ionized, what happens at the atomic level is the electrons disassociate from the protons, and it makes a soup. So plasmas generally are associated with stars, which are made up of hydrogen and helium, very simple elements, and they are associated with high temperatures, high pressures, and it's a soup of subatomic particles. We will also talk about absolute zero, and at temperatures near negative 273 degrees Celsius, which is absolute zero basically, atoms start to behave super weird, and groups of atoms even behave as like a single particle. This is called the fifth state of matter, the Bose-Einstein condensate. So we're talking about kinetic theory, which describes forces of attraction and the behavior of the particles in a substance. Kinetic energy is the energy an object has due to its motion. And the kinetic theory of matter says that everything's made up of particles, all matter is made of particles, and they are in constant motion. Even the coldest ice, the particles are vibrating. Let's explain first the behavior of gases a little bit. Think about billiard balls, and each billiard ball, which is pool, could be thought of as an atom or molecule of gas. If the cue strikes a ball, and the ball moves in a straight line until it strikes the side of the table or another ball, that's basically the gas flying around. They have so much kinetic energy, this energy of motion, that they just shoot off until they hit something. When the moving ball strikes a ball at rest, one ball might slow down, the second ball might begin to move, but it's just kind of random chaos. Kinetic energy is transferred between those collisions, and gases are just lots of fast-moving, spread-out particles. Here's a photograph. The cue was just struck, and it hits the 2-ball, and the energy can be transferred when those particles collide. But like in a gas, there's lots of empty space and lots of random motion. Unlike billiard balls, particles in a gas never just sit there. At room temperature, they are moving about 1,600 kilometers per hour, super fast. They're very small and just flying around all over the place. That's an average speed. Some of the particles are moving slower, Some of the particles are moving faster, but think of the particles in a gas as being in constant motion and flying around, but actually most of a gas is empty space. Here's an illustration with two helium atoms in a container. Each atom moves until it hits something, basically. And that is why the property of a gas fills the container, because the particles have so much energy, they're going to fly around until something stops them. When these particles hit, they might transfer kinetic energy, but really the total amount of motion remains the same, which is a big chaotic mess of particles moving around. The constant motion of the particles in a gas explains why a gas fills a container of any shape and really any size. Gases will just spread out as much as you let them. Let's think about some general properties of a gas, and this kinetic theory explains why this happens. So the particles in a gas are in constant random motion. Really, the motion of one particle is generally unaffected. They're so far spread apart that the particles don't have any intermolecular forces. Sometimes they're going to collide, but that's just very random and not often. So generally, you can just ignore the fact that there are any other gas particles, and we can just think about a bunch of random gas particles moving around freely and without any forces to stop them. What about if we want to look at liquids? How can kinetic theory and forces of attraction be used to explain liquids? Well, the particles in liquids have kinetic energy. They are moving. They are swimming around. So why does a liquid like mercury have a definite volume at room temperature instead of expanding to fill its container? Well, think about it. The speed of the mercury atoms is much slower. They aren't moving fast. Much slower than the helium atoms at the same temperature. And so the particles in the liquid don't have energy, and they are closer together, and those particles being close together then have forces that stick them together. There are intermolecular forces, the cohesion between the particles, because the atoms are close enough to have those attractions. So the attractions between the particles in a liquid affect the movement of the particles, and it gives it a definite volume. It sticks the liquid together. Any liquid, or if you want to think of the mercury atoms, could be compared to a student in a crowded hallway. So the students are all the particles, the atoms. And it could be blocked, they're rubbing up against each other, they're interacting, they are packed together, but there's no real organization. But the student's ability to move is affected by interactions with other students. That's what happens in a liquid. The particles are close enough that you have these attractions, cohesion, viscosity, surface tension. A liquid takes the shape of its container because particles in a liquid can flow to new locations. The volume of a liquid is constant because the forces of attraction keep the particles close together. What that means is that there are attractions between the particles in a liquid, but they're not strong enough to freeze them and lock them in place. So the particles can still swim around and move, just like students in a crowded hallway. They are constrained by the forces that keep them together, but they are also random and free to move around each other. So in a liquid, there is a kind of tug of war between the constant motion of the particles and the attractions among the particles. That explains the general behavior of liquids. The forces of attractions limit the motion so that the liquid cannot spread out and fill a container. What about solids? How can kinetic theory and forces of attraction be used to explain solids? Keep in mind, solids have a definite volume and a definite shape, and it's because the particles, while they vibrate and have some motion, are locked in place and have fixed locations. So a vibration is like a repetitive back and forth motion. If you look at the atoms in solid copper, there are strong attractions among the copper atoms, and those lock the particles in place. It restricts their motion. It keeps each atom in a fixed location relative to its neighbor. But each atom still vibrates in its location. Solids don't have enough energy to overcome the intermolecular forces between neighboring atoms. You could compare the particles in a solid to an audience in a movie theater. People might move around in their seats, but really each person remains essentially in the same place. They have fixed location and they take up a certain amount of space. But keep in mind, even the coldest ice, dry ice, the particles are vibrating in a fixed position. The additional concept we want to start adding to this textbook is the idea that there is thermal expansion. If you heat substances, the particles move more and they will take up more space. But let's make sure you have the basics. For now, that's the first section of Chapter 3.